What is up, guys? Tony Hannity's here, and welcome to Tony's Tech Talk episode 14. So today was obviously a very big day, especially for those of you that are part of the Appleverse. But before we jump into that, I do want to touch on something that Samsung announced today, which was their very first Tizen smartphone, and it is very cleverly named the Samsung Z. I don't know why it's clever. It's, what's in a name? Bears fruit and roses and things. I didn't study Shakespeare. But anyways, the Samsung Z, or the Samsung Z for you Westerners out there, at first glance, it's going to look Android-ish. And that is a culmination of both, the TouchWiz type of interface, as well as a very easy eye to kind of be familiarized with certain types of operating systems and that and whatnot. For the most part, if Samsung does end up, I guess, going into the market with Tizen phones, and they don't really focus on the fact that it's Tizen, and they make it easy for developers to port Android apps over to Tizen. Everyday users, non-geeky types probably won't know the big difference, or they won't even see it. I mean, at first glance, like I said, this doesn't look like anything else other than Android. And so some could attest that to, TouchWiz, but it is what it is. Also, on the back of it, as you can see, it has that kind of faux leather, which we've seen before with the Galaxy Note 3, which is right here. But yeah, in regards to the specifications on this, nothing too amazing on it. I mean, we're looking at a quad-core 2.3 gigahertz processor, 2 gigs of RAM, 4.8-inch HD Super AMOLED display, but it's only running 720p. It does have the fingerprint scanner, which up until now has only been on the Galaxy S5. So it's not really like a low end. If you were to put it in the market right now, you probably would be like mid-range, $150 on a 2-year contract, if you could, or maybe $100 on a 2-year contract. But it doesn't look like we'll get it here in the United States for any kind of time. It's actually going to be launching in Russia initially in third quarter. So whenever that might be. But yeah, let us know if you're excited for Tizen, or if you think it's kind of a dead horse. Is that the term? It's something dead. Horses and I don't know. But is there a point in Tizen? I mean, if you think about it, Samsung does have to pay, not handsomely, but they do have to pay to get the Google apps on their Android phones, and so there's some certification there. They have to pay Apple. There's this whole big hubbub against them and Apple, and it's really kind of diving into, the issues that Android has. So maybe they're trying to, separate themselves with that. Tizen running on the Gear 2, the Gear Fit, and the Gear Neo. I mean, I know it's just a smartwatch, but that was, and now the Galaxy Gear, the first one's actually running Tizen. If you didn't know this, that they actually did a software update and completely removed Android, and it's all Tizen on the first Galaxy Gear. So I don't think that this means that the Galaxy S5 is going to get an update, and next thing you know, it's running Tizen. I highly doubt that's ever going to happen. But the fact of the matter is, Samsung isn't stupid. They have the money, and they're trying to put it into something viable, something that could not necessarily differentiate themselves, but possibly get them out of trouble and keep them out of trouble. So let me know what you think in the comments here below. But moving on, the big talk of the day was Apple's WWF. What? No F? Oh, DC. WWDC, Worldwide Developers Conference. That's very ballsy of Apple. I mean, it is Apple, but, Worldwide Developers Conference. Like, you just say WWDC to a general person, they might think that it's a developer conference for all developers of every programming language, of everything. But no, it's Apple. So what did they announce today? What was unveiled? Obviously, oh, that is my phone buzzing at me. Obviously, there was no hardware. So let's get that out of the way quick. No TV, told you so. No iWatch, I think I mentioned that. No new iPads, no new iPhone, told you so. No new MacBook Air with Retina. Sorry, I was kind of hoping for that too. But it was all software based, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, this is a developer conference. It's not a product conference, you know. So I'm not a developer. So there were a few of these things that went right over my head, like with Swift. Like, cool, it's like a new programming language. So you know, you can learn Objective-C and this and whatever this was. I was like, okay, I know Radford Castro is going to be all excited about this because he's a programmer. But for those of you that got up and clapped your hands and applauded and were really excited for this, cool. I'm glad you're excited because Apple wants you to be excited. You know, they don't want to put all this effort into a new programming language, and because it is something else that you have to learn, but it seems that it's fairly, I wouldn't say easy, but it's a nice. I guess ease of use to do. I don't know. I'm not even a programmer in BASIC, you know. So I couldn't really like even start to comprehend what's going through your mind as a programmer. But let's talk about Yosemite. So that was another thing. Like I love the joke that I forget what his face said, but they said, first we checked out Mac OS X Oxnard. And then we went up to OS X Weed, and now we finally found, a California monument landmark that we can all be proud of, which was Yosemite. Yosemite? Oh, Yosemite. That's what I said. So a few things that happened in Yosemite. First of all, it's a whole new kind of like interface. They've got the new notification center on the side, which is very iOS-like. In fact, the whole thing is very iOS inspired. Like all the icons are flat, very pastel-like, like iOS 7. So the notification center off to the right side. You have the Today view or the Google Now view if you want to kind of Androidize it, if you will. But then you can also look at other notifications like incoming mail, anything that you would want to be notified on your computer. Also, they have a new Spotlight app. So the Spotlight app to type into, the little box, is right dead set in the center. And there's also a shortcut key like Apple Control-C or something like that. And it pops up and you can start typing. And you can say, like, I don't know, Usher. And it'll bring up the Usher's albums. It'll bring up his Wikipedia page. Nothing new to Windows 8 users, at least Windows 8.1 users. I mean, that Bing feature, and yeah, I'm throwing it out there, the Bing feature that is available on Windows 8.1 is very useful, and it's very similar in nature. I mean, not only does it search on files and programs of the same name on your computer, but it also does a universal search throughout the internet. So you could type in like Control Panel, and you'll get the Windows Control Panel. But maybe there's like Control Panel somewhere else that you like. Maybe there's an app called Control Panel that you want to download, and it'll look in the Windows App Store. And this does the exact same thing. It's not bad. It's not like, oh, they're copying Windows. Well, yeah, but it's not a bad thing because people want it. So they're gonna put the feature out there, and people are gonna be happy that it's finally there. Another really cool feature, I gotta hand to Apple, that they're integrating this into the whole Mac and iOS ecosystem. This is available for Android, but more so as a hack. Or maybe not a hack, but it's an application that you have to download called Mighty Text or Texty, and it's really, really cool, but it really only works with text messaging. And what it is, it allows you to forward, in a sense, your text messages through a Google Chrome extension from your phone to your computer, as long as you're using Google Chrome. Now, with Apple, they did something similar, wherein that as long as you are running OS X and iOS, if somebody texts you, even if they're not an iMessage user, which they poked fun at again, those inferior devices, yes, my device, whatever. Now those people that text you on your computer, you can actually get those text messages. Does people still text these days? I don't know. WhatsApp, baby. That's all I got to say. I don't even use it. So yeah, that's kind of cool. That's obviously new. They also did a really great live demo of making phone calls through the Mac, relaying to the iPhone. So the iPhone is really just a relay center for some of these things, as long as they're in close proximity to each other. And they're using Bluetooth to kind of pair together without you having to do anything. So I'm sure there's some sort of like security wall that you have to bypass and verify that the iPhone is yours and the computer is yours and the iPad is yours. But once you've done all that, then you can get one notification. All your devices will bring if you want them to bring, and that'd be cool. It might be a little annoying. But then, like, yeah, if you want to make a phone call and you see a phone number on a website on your computer, you don't have to go find your phone to write it down or copy and paste the phone number and try to save it in a note. You can just make the phone call right from your computer, hit call, and it'll use your phone to make the call, but you'll hear the conversation or start the conversation on your computer. So that was pretty cool. I was really very happy with that. And like I said, they did a pretty cool live demo of calling the infamous Dr. Dre, who is going to be a future Apple employee. And he made a joke like, "Oh, I forgot to ask, what time should I report in to the office?" And I said, 9 o'clock should be good. So yeah, Dr. Dre doesn't have to come in at 9, believe me. Yeah, so I was actually pulling a lot of this information because I was on the road. So I was watching The Verge's live blog, and I was going to Twit's live stream as well too. So some of these things are a little, I'm trying to be able to verbalize everything and that I saw and heard about. So if I missed something, they said, this is the cool part. Let me know. The 9 to 5 Mac has a really great hands-on with OS X Yosemite. Let's go ahead and move on to iOS 8. So iOS 8, obviously, we knew this was going to come out. We saw the big posters as iOS 8 on it, or I said it was a big 8. And one thing that they were mentioning that in terms of all the hardware devices that are out there that are updated to the latest version of iOS 7 versus the latest version of Android, which is Android KitKat, they're saying how Android KitKat's only like 9%, but iOS 7 in that kind of like latest version up-to-date hardware is, well, like 80%. It was like some gargantuan number compared to just KitKat. And I get it, but I don't know, like part of the, I guess, the Android fanboy in me that's not the developer is like, what's the big deal? Like, I'm still able to use all my apps. There's a few, obviously there are a few features in KitKat that are specific to KitKat that someone in Jelly Bean can't get, but there's so many devices, and in terms of like if we're going to be playing like, okay, who has the largest market share, who's got the largest market share, so it's definitely going to be an interesting battle for the rest of our lives if Apple and Google continue on the mobile operating system hunt of trying to dominate the world with their devices and their operating system. But at Google I/O, we're going to hear the exact same thing. We're going to say, oh, look at Apple's market share. It's only 3%, but Google's market share is good. It's this huge number. So we're going to see biased numbers every which way. Microsoft, with all due respect to the client, Microsoft does things like that too. But it's PR, so it makes things it makes headlines. So that's cool. But yeah, I went to iOS. Sorry, I went to 9 to 5 Mac. Checked out this really quick video. Where they talk about iOS 8. And one real cool thing that I want to first touch on is they improved the keyboard. So it's one of their keyboard, the new feature on the keyboard is called QuickType. So it actually puts some word suggestions. So you might recognize this if you've used third-party keyboards on Android, but like it's contextual. So if I send you a text and say, hey, do you have time to have dinner or get some coffee, some of the suggested words right above the keyboard will say either dinner or coffee. So that's pretty cool. And I think they're also integrating the swiping ability because one thing that a lot of our Android users have been using ever since Swipe, which was purchased by Nuance, was on a Windows phone back in Windows Mobile days, as well as obviously the Samsung Charge and the Samsung Fascinate, because I think Samsung was the first manufacturer to integrate Swipe. Now we've got SwiftKey X with SwiftFlow and all this other stuff. Well, what I'm getting at is all the swiping motion, the sliding motion that is now coming to iOS. And I think it's coming to iOS officially, like through the QuickType. But I also know that if you want, here's the swipe being demonstrated right here. That is the swipe keyboard natively on iOS. For so many years, people have been clamoring for the ability to install their own third-party keyboards without having to jailbreak their phone. And Apple being Apple, you know, they don't want any kind of sluggishness. They want to have their product the best that it can be. And they felt up until now that, you know, the third-party keyboards were not so much inferior, but, you know, they had some issues. There were security issues, there were debugging issues, and so now whatever they've done in iOS 8, that capability is now being opened up for you to install your third-party app. So great news for Flexi, which is another awesome keyboard. The boys and girls over at SwiftKey, and of course Nuance or Swipe. Sorry, making a lot of noise over here. Another thing that was announced was the fact that Touch ID fingerprint sensor is available to third-party app developers. So in any event, this is really, really good news, especially if you have, like, for example, not SimplePass. What's the that's an HP thing. What's the one I'm thinking of? LastPass. Yeah, LastPass. So LastPass is that, you know, program, that application that you can use that stores all of your passwords, that of all the websites that you ever traverse, all the banking accounts that you have, and it can generate passwords for you as well too. With LastPass, there's a password to get into LastPass. But you know, if you forget that password, or if that password is one of those very easy passwords like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. The Touch ID, would allow the developer of LastPass to say, hey, let's just go ahead and use that, and no more typing anything in. So that is cool. I use a fingerprint scanner on my computer to turn my computer on and unlock it from the main screen. So I gotta say, although it's a swiping thing similar to the Galaxy S5, fingerprint scanning is a thing. It's a good thing to have, and you know, since Apple made it so easy with the Touch ID, I got to hand it to them. Many more people are going to start using this. Again, security. It's interesting to see, like, after a year essentially since the iPhone 5S, or almost a year, that they have either improved security with iOS 8, or they've done something, because obviously this is only going to work with the iPhone 5S and the iPhone 5 or iPhone 6, and the new iPads apparently are also going to have Touch ID. But they've done something in the security side of it where they're willing to open it up to developers. So, yeah, so now that's going to be really cool and very, very good, very convenient for the rest of y'all out there. Cirie has also been updated. So Cirie now has the new Shazam integration, as I said yesterday. You know, on Android, it's not Shazam. I think it's like Google Listen, something like that, where, you know, if you're watching or listening to a song, you can say, what's this song, and Google will use Google Now to figure out what the song is. Google also uses that with TV. So if I'm at Best Buy and there's a movie playing and I don't want to pause the movie to see what the title is, I can just put my phone up to the TV and it listens to the audio and says, oh, you're watching Lethal Weapon 3. Which we were. And so that's cool. And I know Shazam does that too in certain ads, but I think it's really to kind of sell the music behind the ad. I don't know. But yeah, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I know I kind of poked fun at the idea that Shazam is going to be integrated instead of having to download a separate application, but I do need to realize that there are people out there that don't want to install all these different apps. So if you can integrate it very easily, seamlessly, and make it so user-friendly that people will just use it and they might not even realize that they're using Shazam, then all the better for Shazam and all the better for Apple. Also, they have a new hands-free thing where you can say, hey Siri, yeah, I kind of also thought that this was going to become part of iOS 8. I mean, I think a lot of us thought of this too, but now they've made it official. They've done some new updates also where you can actually purchase iTunes content through Siri, and you have 22 new dictation languages. So I don't know what the languages are, so you can go into Apple's website to figure that out specifically. If you got a family and all of y'all got iOS devices, there's a new setup called family sharing, which is really cool. You can have one credit card for the whole family to share. I think it's up to 5. I'm not quite sure. But one thing that's really nice is that not only can you share like your location, your calendar, your photos, but you can also share things that you've purchased, like movies and games and other apps and books. And if my son, if we were an iOS family and he wanted to go and download Minecraft, the Pocket Edition, and it's $6.99, which I believe it is, on his iPhone or whatever it is, it would say you need to ask permission. And I can set that up in family sharing, and I think that is like critical these days, because when you set up an Apple device, one of the first things it does ask you is to put down a credit card. And most of us are, I guess, okay with that. I mean, because Apple has more credit cards on file than Amazon does, so obviously a lot of y'all are okay with that. I bypassed that. I don't think I have a credit card on file with Apple whatsoever. I just use the gift cards and things like that. But the fact of the matter is, if I were to have my son under my account, it would be the same thing. So now with family setup and family sharing, I can have that peace of mind that my credit card bill isn't going to go all the way up. Even if he does like figure out my password or whatever, he still has to ipso facto ask for permission. I don't know exactly how that works, because there's a little button that says ask for permission. It says ask, so he hits ask, and I'm assuming that on my device something pops up, says so-and-so wants to purchase an app. Do you allow or disallow? And I'll say allow, because he has really great grades. Boom. So that would be something that is going to end a lot of arguments in the family, but also the sharing of calendar and location is really, really key too. Another thing in iOS that was announced, and we kind of thought that this was going to happen, is HealthKit. It's not HealthBook. It's called HealthKit and the Health app. So HealthKit essentially is a platform, and we thought that this was going to be the case. And the platform is as such where all these different medical organizations like Kaiser Permanente, Mayo Clinic, Sutter Health, Penn Medicine have come together and agreed essentially on, I guess, inputting information about a certain individual. So like the author of this article, Jordan Kahn, if he went to Kaiser Permanente and also went to Duke Medicine, and they agreed with those respective organizations that they would share his information on his HealthKit app, he would be able to track all his health-related information. So like his blood sugar level, his weight, his height, everything that you've ever want to track, everything the doctor has ever tracked through their computer, and everything that they said to you, you need to keep an eye on this, but you never really had a good app to do that. Now you have an app to do that. Respective to Samsung, they have their S Health app, but it is specifically Samsung, and you have to go in there and put all that stuff in there. This, essentially, again, if you give permission to the apps, would just do it for you. Also, with the Health app, they've opened it up to certain developers, and I specify certain developers like Nike, and I think Fitbit was also one of the companies that they said that they would be working with, but I definitely know Nike would be integrated into the Health app to automatically aggregate its information as you're running through the woods and over the hills to grandmother's house. It'll go get all that information, and somehow possibly that the doctor will say, "Oh, you're running a lot more. Good, you're doing what I told you to do." So they'll stop hounding you when you get to the doctor. So it's a lot more proactive instead of reactive. Also, the doctor could basically look at all of your information and say, "Okay, well, based off of your Fitbit info, you're not sleeping enough. Why aren't you sleeping enough?" "Well, I'm podcasting until 2 in the morning." "Well, podcast another time. You need your sleep." Things like that. So that's really cool. I'm glad they did announce that. I know Mark Gurman from 9 to 5 Mac was the one who broke this initially with health books, and it was the first iteration looked very much similar to Passbook, but they've changed the layout and changed the name of it. It's the same thing. It does the exact same thing. It does exactly what we thought it would do. Good scoop, Mark. And yeah, so I'm excited for that for all you iOS users, and hopefully Google will kind of jump on that. And I know with like Android Wear, there's going to be health-oriented and fitness-related stuff in that. But having these partnerships with these not only third-party developers, but these health organizations is key. Really, really good for Apple, and kind of sets them ahead of Google in this realm here. Also, another thing that they announced was iCloud Drive. So this is Apple's attempt to kind of combat against Google Drive and SkyDrive, or OneDrive. Sorry, OneDrive, Uno Drive, Dropbox, Box.net, and basically allows you to have one source, one place, one location to store and sync all of your documents, videos, pictures, music, whatever, between Mac, iOS, and Windows. That's cool. As of yet, though, there's no like other app for Windows Phone or Android. I doubt we'll ever see one. So that kind of sets me aside. Like I'm probably never going to use it, but that's cool for you Apple users out there. That's cool because up until now, like iCloud hasn't really been like the iCloud that Dropbox is or Google Drive is. And Google Drive is cool, but it's not, you know, I know they just separated Google Drive from Google Docs and everything. So they just separated that on the app level. On the web app level, it's still a little convoluted. So hopefully Apple can get it right. And this is like I wouldn't say it's their first attempt to web app, but this is like they're getting really serious about web apps. It's a very new Apple because they haven't really done web apps so well in the past. And two more things I will talk about, and then we'll close it up. Apple finally announced something that we talked about yesterday, which was basically a platform for home automation called HomeKit. And so the HomeKit APIs will basically serve as the central hub for home automation. So as they mentioned in the keynote, they are partnering with what was the term that they used? Leading developers or groundbreaking? Anyways, they're partnering with a select few of these home automation developers and producers like Honeywell and Philips and not Nest. And they talked about thermostats, like smart thermostats, and they showed a smart thermostat on stage, and it was the Honeywell thermostat, not Nest. So that's interesting. So if you have a Nest and you're hoping that you could use this with your iOS device, you still can. You just won't use it with the HomeKit API. As of right now, it's not open to them. And I wonder if Apple is going to be like butthurt about it, if they're going to say, well, although you were funded by Google, you guys came from Apple, so. But yeah, we don't want you in the HomeKit. I don't know. That'd be stupid of them. But I don't think Apple. Well, they do hold grudges, don't they? So yeah, we're looking at locks, cameras, lights, doors, thermostats, plugs. Everything that home automation that you could ever think of, that you could ever want. They're gonna have Cirie integration, group devices in different scenes, so you can walk into a room, just say morning, have a morning hue. Even at 3 o'clock in the morning, it'll make it look like it's 10 o'clock in the morning, or if you want disco, you'll have like disco lights and it'll just be you in the middle of the room going Yeah, so that's fun. Yeah, so obviously there's no like hands-on with this. This is going to be integrated into iOS. I'm sure they'll also somehow integrate it into macOS, so you can kind of control some of the things. I think that'd be a good idea, because controlling it on your iPhone is great. Controlling it on your iPad is good too. But sometimes you might want to just have a keyboard to do more of the harder controls, and just be a little bit easier to do on the desktop. I don't know, just a thought. Apple, call me. I'll let you know my thoughts. But then, lastly, one thing that got a lot of people really excited about, I mentioned this already, was the new Xcode Swift. So again, Xcode, over my head. I don't get it. They did a Hello World thing on stage, and I was like, what just happened? Because everybody got up and said, yay, woo! It wasn't a whole Steve Ballmer developers moment, but people were very, very excited. And I'm only assuming that the language is just makes app development easier. Because why else would you be excited to learn something additional? Unless you just love learning, which is good, but we don't have time to learn everything. We need to make money. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. WWDC, at first it did kind of disappoint me because here's the problem. Again, like I said earlier, I was reading this on the fly. I was watching articles kind of come up as they came up. I was looking at Twitter, and I was in between appointments, if you will. So I didn't get a real clean cut of what is going on, and I didn't hear anything about HealthKit or HomeKit until like 2 hours after the fact. So I was on Twitter. I was like, oh, I'm very disappointed. I knew there wasn't going to be any hardware, but I was still expecting some other things. And the things I was expecting actually were announced. I just didn't hear about it all. So yeah, actually, I'm very happy. After hearing everything that they talked about, I'm actually very happy with what was announced, what kind of plans that they have for OS X and iOS. And I'm excited to see what they have plans in the hardware division now that this is going to be all culminated into that. So that's cool. It's very interesting. But up next is Google in just a few weeks. So yeah, we'll keep tabs on that. We'll see if anyone else has anything else to say. The next couple of days, next couple of weeks, we'll definitely see if people are finding bugs or finding really cool features in Yosemite or iOS 8 that they didn't talk about on stage. And if there was something that they did talk about on stage that you were like, Tony, you need to talk about this or you need to dive into this, let me know. Hit me up on the comment section below here on the YouTube channel or in the Q&A here live on the video. I do this show on a daily basis between Monday through Thursday, not Friday. I don't do Friday. So Monday through Thursday, about 10 to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And due to the nature of my schedule, I have to do it late at night. So if this is past your bedtime, sorry. But you can always watch the recording after the fact. And we also do have the LTG show generally every Tuesday on the Lazy Tech TV network. And that's also around 10:30 to 11 o'clock at night. So we should have another show tomorrow. I don't see why not. But in any event, if you have any other questions or comments, you can hit me up directly on YouTube, or you can hit me up directly on Google+, or even better, Twitter, LTG Tony. So I'm just going to do one last check in the Q&A. No questions tonight. That's fine. Thank you very much for all of you that were watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.